Hello, everybody. This is Agent Andrew on how to use crypto to organize your community and your organization um, effectively and efficiently. So, if you think about ants, it would be weird to examine one ant and then say, okay, I've got it. I know what an ant is. Similar to humans, it's weird to look at one human or to think of yourself as one human in isolation and to think that you understand what humans are. Much more closer to our essence would be to look at us acting in groups, similar to ants. And you would say, okay, if that is the essence of a human, and if you look at our society, our history, civilization, all of this stuff, it comes from our ability to efficiently organize in a group and to, divide labor and share responsibility. So I think we have a system that has kind of evolved over time to help us with our organization. It's clearly something that I think a lot of people see room for improvement on. Whenever you see some of the leaders and some of the systems in power right now, it makes you think, okay, there's this could be done better. And if you think about the difference between an unorganized and inefficient community versus one that is organized and efficient, whether it's organized in a centralized or decentralized manner, um, it means a lot to have your community organized. And I think when it comes to utility of crypto, and this is something that will seep into people's minds, and I think that we are ahead of at deep state feds. It's just the idea that community is enough utility, in truth, right? I know that's something that scammers say to get people to buy stuff that doesn't have anything built on it. But it's also something that somebody would say if they sincerely cared about community and they saw the value in it. I think you can build a crypto and a community where that's all you have at first, and then you work together to build utility that everybody, agrees that they actually need. I think reversing that, where you have utility first and then you try to find the community, kind of boxes you into a centralized hierarchy because whoever created the utility needs to manage it somehow. So I think that if you kind of relax that muscle that says, what's the utility? What's the utility? And you allow community to be the utility, it sets you up for a different paradigm, which I think is a sustainable one. So, um, if you're watching this video and you're not into crypto, or if you are into crypto and you're not really into community coins or anything like that, I just think open your mind a little bit and recognize that community is a great utility, and crypto can absolutely help you organize your community. Um, so I'm going to kind of give this video from the perspective of somebody who knows about community, who maybe runs a community in real life outside of blockchain. Every single one of us is involved in a community like this, whether it's a government or a local organization or a church or a club. If you're a part of a sports base or a fan base of a sports team, all kinds of stuff like this. Knights of Columbus, Lions, anything like this. You know that there's value in community and organization. So I won't have to sell you on that part. I'm going to talk to you then about how do you use crypto to uh, be the backbone of that. Well, if you want to make your community accessible to as many people as possible, it only makes sense that you would use the central world blockchain, which is not Bitcoin, I think, at this point. I think it's Ethereum. Bitcoin is a store of value. Yes, you have ordinals and stuff on it, but what do most people use to interact with blockchain on a day to day basis? It would be Ethereum as the main blockchain, and then you have some other secondary blockchains that are built on top of Ethereum that connect to Ethereum. But I think anybody that is sincere would at this point recognize that Ethereum is the center of, smart contracts. And if you wanted to pick the most unopinionated choice, Ethereum would be it at this point. So I'm going to give my discussion on this based on using Ethereum itself. Um, I'm going to try to do this quickly. Yes, Ethereum's a blockchain that exists as kind of like a information database that doesn't exist on one server, but instead exists on a community of servers that are modified by validators according to transactions that are submitted from secure wallets. So it's a something that doesn't exist in one place but exists in many places. But how can you take this blockchain out of the ether and put it into something where you're actually able to examine it? Etherscan.io. This is certainly something that anybody that's going to get involved in blockchain needs to be familiar with. You should know how every piece of this website works. And I would bet to say that a lot of the people out there that are involved in blockchain have some work to do when it comes to understanding what Etherscan and all the tools that it has available can do for you if you use it at its max power. So if you want to see what's really going on a blockchain, play around on Etherscan. Watch some videos on that. Just had to throw that part in there. On Etherscan, you can see that they have tokens and they have NFTs. Again, I'm sure a lot of you guys maybe already know this, but I kind of want to go through the details again. There's two main types of assets in crypto. You have fungible tokens and you have non-fungible tokens. Fungible just means that two things are treated similar in an exchange. So two separate dollar bills, you in most cases wouldn't really care whether or not you got one bill or another. You just want a dollar. When it comes to fungible tokens, you want a specific car that you're buying. You want a specific house, and you can't really buy half of a house or half of a car. It's an item, right, rather than a currency. So fungible tokens more on the currency side, non-fungible tokens more on the assets, divisible, let's see, discrete assets. So how can somebody where should somebody who does care about crypto start and they want to organize their community using crypto? Where should they start? Should they start with fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens? Well, I also see the value of community organization. What our project at Deep State Feds tries to do is to help people organize their communities um, and help them get through some of the complicated stuff regarding blockchain, like how do I launch a token? What amount should I pre-sale? How do I get the initial liquidity? All of those stuff, we want to advise people and help people on doing that efficiently. So not to say that we're experts right now, but we have learned a lot in the time that we've been doing this. And so I make these videos to kind of share our experience and to, let people know that we are thinking generally about all of these topics. And I think that will put us in good position to help people launch their own communities. So what advice would I give to somebody who wants to organize their community on Ethereum? Should they pick fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens? I think fungible is the better way to start. So fungible tokens, you would find these on Uniswap. You see when you put in some ETH to swap with, it gives you just a random amount of some tokens. Not a random amount, obviously it's calculated, but it gives you some amount. And there's no difference between the first one of these tokens and the last one. They're all treated equally. The most common, so that's where that would be on our website. The most common, I guess, platform for NFTs would be OpenSea, and we have NFTs too. And you can see that these are, pictures that are backed by one token. So each picture, each token is its own divisible thing versus, a group of tokens like you get here. So even though they're both called tokens, this one's more of a currency. This one is more of an individualized asset. So where do you start when you want to launch your community? Maybe you think, okay, I want to do individualized assets for everybody. I'd say you want to start with tokens. So why? First is that it's if you do NFTs, there's a minimum amount that people need to spend to join your community. And if somebody wants to be a little bit more involved in your community, they have to buy multiple of these NFTs to express their desire to be more exposed to your community. Um, and you might think, okay, that's great. Yeah, if somebody wants to be really involved, they can buy 5 NFTs. If they only want to be a little bit involved, they can buy 1 NFT. I would just say if that's something that's important to you, I think going fungible would be better because obviously that gets, even more divided. If you want to put in $1, you can. If you want to put in $10,000, you can. And you're able to manage your exposure a little bit more effectively. Um, I think a huge downside with NFTs, and this comes from the definition of it, is that NFTs do not have the same level of liquidity that fungible tokens do. And if you think about why, it's because if I have 2 fungible tokens, they share the same source of liquidity. If I have 2 non-fungible tokens, then by definition, you don't treat them equally in exchanges. So maybe somebody wants one of the tokens more than they want the other. You also have to wait until people have the minimum amount to make the trade happen. If they only have the amount to buy half of an NFT, they cannot, by definition, put their liquidity into the NFT because they cannot buy half of one. So the liquidity problem is essential to NFTs. It's not going away. So if you care about letting people manage their exposure efficiently, I think fungible tokens is definitely the way to start. It's more effective for people to manage their exposure. Now, at the same time, does that mean you want to give up on NFTs and not have them? No, I think you have to think of them as secondary assets. I think if you're doing a community, your primary asset should be fungible tokens. So that way you let everybody manage their own exposure and commitment to a very fine grained and defined level. Now, at the same time, I think fungible tokens have a use. You want to be able to identify people, yeah, or addresses. You want to, have these people be able to customize their assets and to express themselves in your community using this asset, just like a title would do, right? If you call somebody captain or general, it's there's something that they have that indicates their responsibility and their level of commitment to the community. And so if they come and they ask for something, by default, they get a little bit more, I guess, influence in that, and hopefully it's rightfully earned influence so that way the decision making process and the organization is a little bit more efficient than just treating everybody equally. um, yes, it's easy to, for 2 separate people to buy 50,000 of, a token. I think it's a lot harder for, those 2 people to, um, you know vote the same way in every vote or to show up the same amount in community events, to contribute the same amount. So I think that the NFTs show how people can individualize their experience, and I think you do want that. So in my mind, you start with fungible tokens because again, it helps people manage their exposure. And then on top of the fungible tokens, that's where you introduce the non-fungible tokens for people who want a secondary asset to individualize their experience. Um, so obviously these need to work hand in hand, but with fungible being the base. So how do we do that at Deep State Feds? I think our voting system does a great job of showing our commitment to this structure and this idea. First is you're only allowed to vote if you have one of the NFTs. So all of these all of these addresses have gotten an NFT from us, and that makes them eligible to participate in the votes. But not everybody gets the same weight to their voting. That's where we let the tokens come in. So even though the agent allows you to vote, you then have to have tokens which determine your weight of your vote, and you can see there's probably a huge difference in having 65 million of the tokens versus having 2 million of the tokens. You If you want to have a louder voice, you can fine tune exactly how loud of a voice you want. It's just that we also know that everybody that's in here making these decisions, because of the fact that NFTs are not as liquid, it's harder to move in and out of them. So it prevents people from, buying a whole stack, voting, and then dumping the whole stack right after. If they have the NFT, then we're able to identify them. We're able to make sure that they've earned the right to have a voice in the votes. And we kind of build a sense of community and shared responsibility by knowing who's showing up to the votes, who's participating, and how do we integrate them deeper into the responsibility of our community. So I know this was a lot, but again, if you just think back to the beginning of this, it was how can you use crypto to organize a society or a group of people? You obviously would use Ethereum for that. You got to think about the difference between the two types of tokens. Deep State has both of those tokens, but we use our Feds token as our primary organization and our basis. We use NFTs as a secondary layer to identify addresses, keep them unique. We try not to have people get multiple of the NFTs. We don't want to incentivize, people hoarding these. We want to make sure it tries to get as close to one or one wallet, one NFT as possible. And then after that, when people want to manage their exposure, it's more efficient to do so with a token. And so we combine these together to have governance votes. And I think that with all of this in mind, this is a much more effective way of organizing a group of people who have a shared vision than it would be to do this on a spreadsheet or a centralized, organization standard. This lets everybody know right away where we all stand. So I'm very bullish on the idea of using crypto as community organization, especially when we flush out the scammers and the pump and dumpers and we, open a door for people who say, you know what, I'm new to crypto, but I like the idea of organizing my community with it. They don't have to be worried about getting screwed right when they try it out. We can create a nice little landing pad for them to see how crypto is supposed to be used. And, yes, is it ridiculous that Andrew is talking about all of this shit about, hey, how do we um, change the paradigm in crypto? How do we, kick out the pump and dump and scammers and allow people an easy entry? Well, yeah, I'm doing it because nobody else is. I wish I didn't have to do all of this. I wish it was just the standard and that this is how it is. But unfortunately, it's not. So, we're at least going to do it like this in our backyard. The rest of the world can get all fucked up if they want. We'll do it like we want in our backyard. And hopefully, our backyard just grows and grows. And I think more people, when they hear all of this, they'll kind of get a sense of why it's happening like this and why we care so much to do it this way. And instead of being crazy, I think we'll be seen as innovative. So I'm excited about the future, guys. See you in the bull run.